Hi, I'm here with a scary story. And now, on to the story. The PA system turned back on. I swear the scariest sound I've ever heard in my life was the crackle of a school intercom. But this wasn't just any intercom. It was in a building that had been abandoned for over 20 years. It was late one Saturday evening when my friends and I decided to explore the old middle school on the edge of town. The building had been shut down for mold, asbestos, and according to rumor, a tragic accident no one liked to talk about. The place had been sitting empty since before we were born. Windows were boarded up. The parking lot was cracked and overgrown with weeds, and the chain-link fence around it sagged like nobody had cared for it in decades. We had flashlights and just enough teenage bravado to push each other past the no trespassing signs. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of mildew. Every step echoed too loudly in the long, empty hallways, like the building itself didn't want us there. The first few minutes were what you'd expect: peeling paint, broken lockers, old desks piled in corners. We laughed it off, snapping pictures on our phones, trying to scare each other by slamming doors. But the deeper we went, the quieter we got. The silence inside that place was strange. It wasn't just quiet. It felt heavy, like the whole school was holding its breath. We found ourselves in a long corridor with classrooms on either side, and at the far end was the main office. A huge bulletin board still hung on the wall. Yellowed papers curled up at the edges. My friend Jason joked that maybe the principal's ghost would give us detention for breaking in. We all laughed, but not for long, because that's when we heard it. A faint click, then static coming from the ceiling. At first, I thought maybe it was my imagination, or maybe some leftover wiring shorting out. But then, clear as day, the old PA system came alive with a crackling hiss. Hello. The voice was small, a child's voice, tinny, distorted through the decades-old speakers. We all froze. My stomach dropped instantly. Jason whispered, "No way that just happened." The static returned. Then, ... Jason. The voice said his name, his full name. Jason swore and stepped back, his flashlight beam jerking across the hall. None of us had moved. No one else was speaking. Another burst of static. Then, Megan. Megan clutched my arm so tight her nails dug into my skin. Her voice shook. "This isn't funny. Who has the walkie-talkie?" But none of us had anything. Just phones with no signal inside the thick concrete walls. The intercom crackled again. Eli. That was my name. My throat went dry. Hearing it in that warped, childlike tone felt wrong on a level I can't explain. We didn't laugh anymore. We didn't even breathe. The sound of faint feedback hung in the hall for a few more seconds. Then silence. We should have left right then, but curiosity mixed with terror is a dangerous thing. Instead of running for the exit, we found ourselves moving toward the office at the end of the corridor. Like maybe we'd find some kind of speaker box or old equipment still wired up. something that made sense. Inside the office, the desks were overturned, papers scattered across the floor, mold creeping up the walls. The PA console sat on a counter in the corner, covered in dust and grime. No lights, no power. The wires were cut. It was impossible for it to have turned on. Jason leaned over to inspect it when the speakers above us crackled again. This time, there was no name, just the sound of children laughing, not cheerful laughter. It was warped, drawn out, like it was playing on a loop from some broken tape. It echoed through the empty school until I couldn't tell if it was coming from above us or all around. Megan whispered, "We need to leave now." So we turned back toward the hall and froze. At the far end, where we'd entered, a classroom door creaked open on its own. The hallway was pitch dark except for the beam of our flashlights. And in that light, the door slowly eased wider until it slammed against the wall with a crash. The intercom popped again. ... Come here. That same child's voice, soft, playful, like a kid on a playground. Jason bolted first, sprinting toward the exit, and the rest of us followed. Our footsteps thundered against the tile, but behind us, I swear I could hear others' lighter, quicker steps, almost like they were chasing us. We didn't stop until we were outside, gasping for air in the cool night. The school loomed behind us, silent again, as if nothing had happened. Jason swore up and down that someone had been inside, messing with us. Megan refused to talk about it at all. But later, when I looked up the school's history, I found something I wish I hadn't. Back in the late 90s, just before it was shut down, a fire broke out in one of the classrooms. The sprinklers failed, and a group of students never made it out. The school was closed soon after. And here, the part that still keeps me awake. Among the list of names of the children who died that night were Jason, Megan, and Eli. Our exact names. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it was a sick prank. But I know what I heard, and I know it was real. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I can still hear the faint hiss of static, like an old intercom trying to come alive again.